Conversation to start us off with. We'll see what Anthony did over the weekend. Are you good?
Yeah, all good.
All right. I'll get us live over here on Instagram. Welcome everybody to the Patrick Carr Show as we go live everywhere. What is it, Monday morning, Anthony?
Oh, yeah.
Nice. You don't have your mic today, do you?
No,
Oh, man. What's that? Okay, you can tell us what's going on. Welcome everybody to the Patrick Carr Show. If you just joined us, we're going to get everybody into the chat right now. Hope you're having a great Monday morning, wherever you might be joining us from. Hopefully at your desk. If you're in your car driving around, we've got a great guest here. Rick Singh is going to be joining us here, talking everything about the election that he's in right now to be the next clerk of court. Anthony, I know nobody can hear you, though. Did you do anything exciting over the weekend? As I crack open Ghost Energy, we'll welcome first sponsorship.
really. Just came down, chilled.
Anthony did nothing over the weekend, everybody. Really exciting stuff here. All right, nice job, bro. I appreciate it. You know what I did? I went over to a fundraiser at something called the Lineman Ranch in Leesburg.
Wow.
For our friend Jay Collins over there, the Republican who's running for governor. Obviously, he's been on the show just a few weeks back. Lieutenant Governor was there, got a chance to sit down with his wife, interview her. I know we've got a clip coming out from that one, right? So we've got a clip coming out from that, a war veteran. Regardless of how you feel about those two individuals politically, you can't argue with the fact that the man, Green Beret, served his country, and then you've got his wife, who she's just as much of a badass, bro. Wait till you see she's 20 years, special intel. I mean, even if you don't agree with them politically, I was very impressed with their family all the way across the board. And then the Lineman Ranch, by the way, is for like linemen for like, like on for like electrical poles.
Yeah.
It's a museum and a huge ranch for these people who have like lost their lives.
Wow.
The linemen who come into like these cities after there's big hurricanes, and it's built by a lineman, and people can go out there and enjoy time with their family and stuff like that.
It's pretty cool.
That's pretty neat right there, man.
Absolutely.
But no one wants to hear me talk anymore, Rick. Everyone is here to hear from you. And folks, we're going to be taking questions at the end. Rick Singh is running to be the next Orange County Clerk of Court. And already early voting is going on, Rick? Or?
Yes, Patrick. Thank you so much for having me. It's indeed a pleasure to be with you. I think we need to change the name of this program to the House of Carr, but that's just me.
I like it, man.
So happy to be here. Early voting started. Absentee ballot. People have them in their hands. So it's coming in slow. It's trickling in. So if you've got an absentee ballot, don't make the mistake of holding on to it. Get it out in the mail. Early voting starting. I think there's 27 or 25 different locations around Orange County. So get out there early and vote. It could rain on election day, what have you. But election day is on August 18th.
What do I need to know for somebody who's in Orange County watching this right now? Maybe they've got something in the mail. Walk me through how this early voting process works for the average citizen or somebody that's new into Orange County. Walk us through it, Rick.
So early voting is essentially the same as day of voting, meaning August 8th. Early voting just have different locations that's more convenient to people around the county. So there's about 25 strategic locations around the county, libraries, cultural centers, community centers, and they're around the county. And essentially they ask people to go out and vote early.
Okay. Now you are in a contested special election. Is that fair to call it that? Because Tiffany Moore Russell has vacated the position to run for mayor. Now there are two people that are running to be the next clerk of court. It is you and Roberta Walton Johnson.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
So there are two of you right now that are on this ballot that people need to choose from right now. Right?
Well, there's three of us on the ballot. Ms. Cordero is on there also. She vacated her position as a candidate. So, but there's three names on there. So I want to alert all the voters that to discard that name because that vote will not be counted.
Oh, you're confusing me here, Rick. Okay, I'm a simple man here. Okay.
Yeah.
Two people are eligible to run for this thing.
Right.
I would assume two people should be on the ballot. What am I missing right here, brother?
So according to the supervisor of election, three names were already printed. They essentially, in my opinion, hurried to print the ballot. We had a lawsuit that was pending. We sued to essentially enforce the qualification rules of candidacy, and the judge agreed with us. Well, before that, it could get to that. Ms. Cordero decided to drop out. So she dropped out the race. Again, nothing against Ms. Cordero, but this is simply about following the rules.
Okay. Completely understand that.
So,
Now,
to answer that question,
Yeah.
so consequently, she remained on the ballot, and then Roberta Johnson and myself are on the ballot also.
so it's coming down between you and Roberta Walton. I always say Roberta Walton Johnson. I don't know why
Yes.
everyone always don't. I just don't say Roberta Johnson, but I think it's because and I've seen so many of these articles about her.
Yeah.
That for whatever reason they always put the middle name.
Yes, yes.
In some ways, Rick, I want to say this. It's because of her. Maybe it's her ties, Tiffany Moore Russell. Maybe they're seem to be tied together in the past. Maybe that's the 3-part name right there. I don't know. I'm going to jump into that in just a few minutes. But for people who are not familiar, okay, with your past and your history, you have a deep history of serving Orange County as property appraiser. Now you're looking to be clerk of court.
Yes.
Can you explain to everyone just briefly, property appraiser, what did you do in Orange County? Because you were reelected to the position.
Yeah.
And then second, what is the clerk of court for an individual just going day to day? He's like, clerk of court, what exactly is this?
So in 2012, Patrick, when I ran for property appraiser, I had the same question. What does the property appraiser do? But I elevated that position with over 1,000 outreach events. I elevated that position to just being out in the community, letting people know what the property appraiser does. I think that's what an effective public official should do and must do. So we've done some fantastic things in this office. While I was in office, ranked #1 in the state of Florida for accuracy, #1 for efficiency. We won a Stevie Award, internationally acclaimed Stevie Award for customer service. We won a Digital Media Award for our technology. So we really blew this office up. This was the #1 office in the country. Patrick, I used to get calls from foreign countries asking me, hey, who built your website? You know, we got 3 million visitors to our website. So again, analytics that a Fortune 500 company would love. So we did some fantastic things in this office. We elevated the positions so much. So this is why, when I look at the clerk of court, I see similarities, because the main question I get today, even if it's from funders or if it's from people, the general public, what does the clerk of court do? And of course, that's because the office bearer did not elevate the position and educate the people as to what this office did. You know, if you're in this position, I think, and you don't educate the people as to what this office does, you're advocating your position. I feel it is important for you to let people know what the functions of this office are, and not have them have to ask.
Okay. Now we understand what you did. #1 accuracy, #1 in efficiency. I want to understand directly. Roberta Walton Johnson is the general counsel currently for the clerk of court right now. So what do you bring to the table that she does not? Why do voters need to vote for Rick Singh and not Miss Johnson?
Because this is a constitutional office. Orange County and many counties across the country have 5 constitutional offices: your sheriff, your clerk of court, your property appraiser, your tax collector, and supervisor of election. These are entities that are requiring CEOs to run them. When I was the property appraiser, I was the CEO of the property appraiser's office. You know, I dealt with things like, chief operating officer. I dealt with things with financial management. I dealt with technology, human resource, records. Ms. Walton is an attorney in that office with the management responsibility of one person. You know who that person is, Patrick Carr? Roberta Johnson. She's 5th down on the organizational chart. People on that same tier, if you follow me, have double-digit responsibility as far as managing people. Roberta Johnson is managing one person. That's Roberta Johnson.
Why don't more people want to be the clerk of court? Because I look at this position, and the more I look at it, it's a very fascinating position. People are fascinated. Yeah, right. No, but seriously, the clerk of court is that person that you want to have an efficient office when you need information.
Absolutely.
If you need information, and believe me, when you're going to the clerk of court, you need information. You're not going there because, hey, I just want to just kind of look around the website. You want something. And if it's not done efficiently and that information is not available to the public, everybody loses. It's that website that everyone is going to when you need it the most.
So the clerk of court, in my mind, is one of the largest collector of data, like the property appraiser. And what you do with that data is so important. I'm a master, and I say this with humility, of GIS, government informational systems. And again, this is something that I've packaged at the property appraiser's office and put it in a format that anybody in the public can use. I had landscapers using my information because of aerial imagery
Mhm.
to lay out their landscaping. So again, we provided service for the city of Orlando, Orange County, and saved millions of dollars while doing that because of interlocal agreements, right? So I give back $1 million every year to Orange County out of my budget. So again, the clerk of court is a very responsible position. I think, think about this. If you get a speeding ticket, or your son or child get a speeding ticket, a young kid get a speeding ticket, and that's not filed properly, right? And the police pulls that kid over again, what happens to him? He goes to jail, right? So again, going back to Roberta Johnson, she's to my research, she had one case as an attorney in 10 years. Okay, you know who the plaintiff was?
No idea.
Roberta Johnson, in a bankruptcy case. The case got thrown out of court because she filed the wrong papers.
Mm.
So again, this is an attorney that prides herself in being an attorney. You don't need to be an attorney to be the clerk of court. You need to be a CEO. And she prides herself in saying, I'm the only attorney in this race. Well, I pride myself in saying I'm the only non-attorney in this race, because you know what my budget was for attorneys at the property appraiser's office? $1 million every year. So I managed the best legal firms and defended the assets of Orange County very, very effectively.
Okay. I want to ask this question because it does lead into, and I want your opinion about a video that I made. And I don't want you to give me, like, I agree with you, Pat. I want you to dissect this for me and my
Sure.
viewers. If I get something wrong, tell me where I'm getting it wrong, or are these questions? Anthony, if you can bring up the video that we created, the short form piece of content regarding some questions we had for one Tiffany Moore Russell and Roberta Walton Johnson. Roll that clip. Legislative director and the general counsel for the entire clerk of court office. Two women are working hand in hand. She's rising through the ranks 2015 to 2026. She's rising through all the way to be the legislative director and the general counsel for the entire clerk of court office. So these two women are working hand in hand. One of them's trying to be the mayor. The other one is trying to take her place as the clerk of court. It's very clear where their paths interact. And what I don't understand from Tiffany Moore Russell is, in 11 years of watching this person rise to the ranks, and you also knowing from her 2015 application that she was a 2-time felon, why did you never pick up the phone and call FDLE and get the approval? One call, one email, one submission would have done it. And you never did, Tiffany Moore Russell. You never made that call. You never sent that email, and you never reached out one time. And here is my theory. It is because you knew it would be denied, and you had a friend and you had a sorority sister that you were more interested in looking out for than the public and the security of the information in Orange County and our residents. And it is my opinion, based on this, that you are not fit to be the next mayor of Orange County. That is where it becomes a question to me. It is not a question of, okay, do you have a limited arrangement? It's why for 11 years, as a person within your own rank, someone who reports directly to you as general counsel, why was a call never made? Why was there never any documentation stating this person right here is working as my general counsel with 2 felonies? I want to make sure she can access this database that I sign off on, because I want to make sure that I'm doing everything above board. Okay, I know there's a lot of information, Rick, and honestly, and I want to be very clear with my audience. I did not show you this clip beforehand because I wanted your natural reaction to it. If there's something that I've been hyperbolic on, in your opinion, or there's something that I've gotten right or wrong, I truly want to hear your opinion on this, Rick.
I really think you nailed it. You have got it more than anybody that I've heard addressing this subject. So the question goes back, how did these people meet, right? They were law students together. Roberta Walton worked for Tiffany Moore Russell while she was a county commissioner as her aide. She then essentially, Tiffany Moore Russell got elected to that office in a special election. Eddie Fernandez was appointed, and there was a job freeze. I was in office that time. I could tell you about Governor Scott essentially put a mandate out that there would be no hiring. There was a special job that was created for Roberta Walton. Nobody else had access to this job. This job was not advertised. It was an in-house position that was created for Roberta Walton by her friend Tiffany Moore Russell. And of course, she got hired. No checks were done. Now, Roberta Walton was handling, and still is, to my understanding, handling sensitive documents that you need special clearance to handle. She said in a debate with me, essentially, that she had a quasi relationship with FDLE, right? So again, if she had a quasi relationship with FDLE to access documents, then the reasonable question is, where is that document? Where is that document? Secondly, she said she can get bonded. To be a constitutional officer, Patrick, you've got to fill out this document right here by Travelers Insurance. Travelers Insurance. There's 3 questions on it. The first question is, have you had any lawsuits or judgments against you? She would have to say yes. Have you the second question, ever filed a bankruptcy? She would have to check yes. Have you ever been convicted of a crime? She would have to check yes. I'll show you mine. I'm actually going to sign this document in front of you.
Let's go.
I'm going to sign it right in front of you. And I'm going to say, I asked her to sign this document and submit it to Orange County. Travelers Insurance. I have signed this document as property appraiser. Every constitutional officer have to sign this document. It's required, or you can't swear in.
Okay, Rick. Now let me push back on you there, because her response to that, in my opinion, would be that she was, I don't know the right word for it, like that stuff was put. I want to think of the right words here because I want to use them correctly. They weren't expunged, but they were. What is the word that I'm looking for here? Where they were. They weren't expunged, or they've been addressed. I know, like the firearm, she still can't have a firearm. I understand that.
Right.
But these things continue. I guess what I'm asking is they continue to be on her record right now.
So this is not about Roberta Walton's being arrested, having, writing 32 bad checks or committing fraud with 32 checks, bank crimes. This is about the fact that she's running for the office of Clerk of Court that requires bonding.
Mm-hmm.
She's running for the office of Clerk of Court, requiring access to very sensitive information that bottlenecks to the FBI and then FDLE and then, of course, our local jurisdiction. I know about this intimately because I had to sign for the David document, David approval. Mm-hmm. So I know I had to sign this document and I had to sign another document, and you have to audit these because employees will run rampant on it. So again, I don't know how she's accessing information without authorization from FDLE or the authorities. That's a question that needs to be asked also.
And the limited arrangement exactly is what we've asked for. If you come out and you say you have an arrangement, limited in scope as it might be, with FDLE, I think it is reasonable for voters to request that arrangement be shown before August 18th. And right now we're in early voting, as you said.
Right. That
should be shown now.
Exactly.
And the fact that it is not leads me to believe that this individual is hoping to get into the office and then address the problem there as an elected individual. But at that point, the election is already done.
Patrick, this is really an issue of someone being selfish. This is really about an issue about someone looking out for themselves and not the voters. These are people that she's convincing to vote for her. And she's going to go to this office and not be able to swear in. And we're talking Democrats here, right? And then the governor, who's a Republican, Governor DeSantis, will have the option to replace that person, not for 2 years, but for 4 years. So again, every Democrat out there that's looking at this, that wants to essentially do the right thing, should call into question this. Is she qualified? Can she be bonded? Before you win the election and you swear into office, you need to get bonded. If she cannot get bonded, she's not qualified to serve in the office.
Yeah, and I'm going to give you my personal opinion about this. And I've been very clear with this on the show about this position. When somebody is arrested for something, I look at the arrest itself, all right? And then I look at the position in which they're going for the election.
Right.
Do I feel, this is how I look at it, do I feel that arrest could in some way show me that they have a lack of judgment for the position in which they're going into? Great example. Somebody gets arrested for shoplifting,
right.
All right, when they're a kid, and they're looking to be, I don't know, they're going into a position as the, whatever it might, whatever, they shoplifted. All right, I got it. When somebody does something like bad checks, check fraud, literally stealing from people who are getting checks, that's as a bank teller, you're dealing with money, you're dealing with the law itself. Regardless of somebody's age, it is fair to question if they have the judgment to be at this position. Not saying she's not a good attorney, not saying she hasn't been good at her job, But I think that Orange County voters should look at this and go, somebody running for this election sat behind a bank teller's desk, received checks from somebody that they knew were fraudulent, and went ahead and cashed those checks so that they could receive some money on the back end. That happened.
Yes.
And that is documented. And so that person right there is asking for control and access to the most sensitive information inside of Orange County.
Absolutely.
That is a big deal.
Yes.
And I don't think that enough voters understand that. Am I saying that somebody doesn't deserve a second chance? Not at all. But I am saying I look at the crime itself and I look at the judgment that that individual has when they made that decision. She made that decision 32 times.
Yes.
To accept fraudulent checks,
Right.
to take money and put it into her own pocket.
Right.
And those checks were supposed to be refund checks that were going out to somebody. This is not, in my opinion, the best use of judgment. And that is why I question her ability to be able to do the job, regardless of what this is just my personal opinion right here. And then when you said that, I just want to throw that in there to you, Rick.
Well, when you're handling a $40 million budget, let me repeat that, $40 million budget, you have friends that will come to you and give you a contract for texting or whatever. I've had this happen to me, and I put everything out for procurement. I asked for 3 bids, and I look at the most reasonable bid, not necessarily the lowest bid, the most reasonable bid. And if your friend slides one of those bids in there for you, and hey, we're buddies, let's take care of it, judgment comes into play, integrity comes into play, transparency comes into play. So if you've demonstrated in the past, this is a job interview. This is a job interview. You hire the most menial person, most menial labor, you ask them, tell me what you've done in the past, right? That's a basic question. And for the voter to ask that question is not unreasonable. Now, Ms. Walton's position is, I've done this in the past. I've been contrite. I've corrected my life. I've gotten an attorney. God bless you. I'm proud of you. But you're applying for a position now that requires you to fulfill the requirement of bonding. You're running for a position that requires you to sign a document that says that you are responsible for, and FDLE will not give it to you. We've done our research. FDLE said they've never issued a waiver, and they will not issue a waiver given Ms. Walton's. So voters need to know this. It is not unreasonable for voters to. This was outlined in a mailer that I had nothing to do with. Again, people in politics often develop enemies. Her and the other county commissioner, Miss Hill. There was a meme that went out, and they got all upset about it, and they blamed it on me, which I had nothing to do with it. It didn't have my name on it, didn't have my fingerprints on it or anything. But nevertheless, the point here is, hey, I did this, and it was in the past. It was Rick Singh did it, and of course he's against Black women. It became all of a sudden it became a race issue. My credentials are fine when it comes to Black women. I love strong Black women. I adore their contribution to society, like any women. I was raised by a single mother. I was raised by a sister. My culture comes from a feminine aspect of spirituality. So I have no issue with women or with Black women. I adore women. My daughter is an attorney. She's the pride and joy of. I would not want to see anything go, sideways with her. I'd like for her to be treated fairly, with respect, with dignity, and with everything else that goes with that.
All right, we're going to return back to the election. I want to talk right now about the actual office itself for Clerk of Court. You're elected, right? Rick Singh is now the Clerk of Court. What are you immediately changing, improving? What area do you focus on right away that's going to actually move the needle for Orange County residents?
So this office is the lowest performing office in Orange County, if not the state. 2.5 on a Google rating. 2.5. Wow. Now, Patrick, I wouldn't take my dog to a dog groomer that had 2.5, to be honest with you. I wouldn't take a loved one to a doctor that had a 2.5 rating. This is what I'm going to be inheriting. Okay, it's not all fun and games. I've had a friend of mine that texted me knowing that I was running for this office. He said, hey, do you have a number that I can call at the Clerk of Court? I said, no. He said, I've been on hold for 4 hours. 4 hours. I could tell you that if you call the property appraiser's office when I was in charge, 2 minutes and 39 seconds. How do I know that? I measured it. I measured it every week. I made sure my staff stayed on point to answer that phone. If you came to my office before someone greeted you politely and with a smile, it was 39 seconds. So I tell you that to tell you that, it all comes under caring, Patrick. So again, customer service is something I would take. I would do an assessment and find all the backlogs, because there's a lot of things that's backlogged there. Technology, this needs to be, the office needs to be the best website in the state.
Mhm.
There's a lot of information that get put on the website to benefit economic development, to benefit the criminal justice system, to give people access to this office. People don't have access to this office. You do a public information request at this office right now, which Miss Walton is in charge of. Send your public information request and say a prayer, because it's not coming back for weeks. That is atrocious.
Hey, Anthony, do me a favor. Do a real quick search for the DMV in Orange County. I want to see what the rating is for them.
Well, corrections is high, as a matter of fact. So forget DMV. Look at corrections.
Let's see what we got here. I just got what?
Correction or DMV?
Look at DMV, because people always think about DMV.
Yeah.
I bet it's somewhat low. I bet it's higher. It's a 4.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let's look at this. Hold on. We got to make her get it right. Hold on.
Let me look at that one.
Down 1. I got to find out. We're going to figure this out right now. The Florida Department of Highway.
2.8.
Where?
This one.
Right there. And what'd you say?
2.5.
The DMV is doing better.
Corrections are doing better. So
Corrections and the DMV.
Inmates are saying they're happy with their service compared to people
Oh.
that go to the clerk of court office.
Okay,
Think about that.
So we have an office. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
The DMV has got a better rating than our clerk of court office does, and inmates are voting their people better. The people who have to go to a prison
Yes,
system
yes.
are voting that service better than what they're receiving at the clerk of court.
Yes. And I didn't make this up. This is Google reviews. Anybody can go online and check it out.
I'm laughing because that's crazy.
But think about this for a minute. We're laughing at this, but think about how many people didn't get served. Think about how many mothers took off of their job. Think about how many fathers took the time off and took their kids there, or took their kid to get a ticket paid or something, and had this type of experience. This is unacceptable in public service. I come from retail. I come from a private sector as a businessman. If one of my employees did this, they would be gone, or they would be retrained. And this is what's happening. And I don't necessarily blame the employees at the clerk of court office. This starts from the top. You've got to set the culture. You asked me what's one of the things I would do.
Mm-hmm.
I would change the culture in this office. And my employees would know that the customer. I don't call people taxpayers. I call them customers. The customer is the most important visitor to our premises. He's not here because of us. We're here because of him. He's not an interruption in our work. He's the reason for our work. And my employees would know that at the clerk of court office.
Understood. Now, I see a lot of Democrats that come into office. I don't care, D and R behind their name.
Yeah.
Why is the clerk of court a partisan position, at least on paper? This doesn't seem to be a position where it should matter that it's Democrat or Republican. It seems like it's a position that should just be doing a great job for Orange County.
Exactly.
Do you have any idea, any insight? Why do we have a Democrat Republican side for the clerk of court?
So the clerk of court is a constitutional office. It's really mandated by the charter, Orange County Charter. And many decades ago, that charter was created. It was created to make this office partisan because Republicans were in charge, and they wanted to maintain that power. Right. So essentially the dynamic shift in terms of population. Now, Democrats are more in Orange County. So that's the shift there. To answer your question, Republicans, Democrats, independents, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you are. This office is there to serve you and serve you independently. In your hiring practice, there's tremendous amount of nepotism in this office right now. Look at the demographics of the employment here. If you're not a member of a sorority, or you're not a member of a particular church, your chances of getting hired is very dismal. And that's sad. That's a sad state of affairs, because the Hispanic community is very much alive and well here in Central Florida. They're neglected. The other minority organizations here are neglected. And again, this is not fair. It is something of equity. It is something of transparency, and it ought to be, publicized properly.
Okay. Now, when I talk to Democrats who have been on this show running for mayor or other positions, there are a lot of things that they want to see the government do. My question to them is typically one where everybody wants to do a lot, but we have a
Absolutely.
limited budget. All
Absolutely.
right. The clerk of court office is more than just a couple of people.
Of course.
I don't know approximately
About
how
400 employees.
400 employees. Okay, I've got to ask a tough question here, which is this. We may be looking at a time in the very near future, I mean, where there's a deficit in this budget.
Yes.
How do you deal with that? If are cuts coming down the road, would you make cuts to the number of employees to become more efficient? How does this office become more efficient without growing? Because for me, the one thing I'm very concerned about is we're going to keep growing from 400 to 450, but yet it's not going to become more efficient.
Right.
I want to understand from you how efficiency works, because growing more personnel and putting more money and flooding more in doesn't seem like the solution to me.
So there's two parts to that answer. The first part is managing the dollars. Okay. When I became the property appraiser, I found ways to save money. I'll give you an example. Aerial imagery in Orange County was being flown by the city of Orlando, the county, the sheriff. Everybody was doing aerial imagery. I went to them and I took charge of it. And I said, listen, you're paying $1 for aerial imagery. I'm going to sell it to you for 20 cents. Okay. So what that did was essentially cut my budget. I was able to take that money and put it someplace else. I was able to take that money and pay my employees better, $17 an hour, right? So again, you can reallocate money with interlocal agreement. Now, talking about efficiency is paramount, right? We've got technology now. I'm the only elected official that I know of that actually went to MIT and studied artificial intelligence because I care, okay? So again, you've got so much efficiencies that could be corrected with technology. You know, Patrick, I just did a Brazilian radio show, I believe for an hour and a half, and the guy used ChatGPT, believe it or not, to essentially translate. He didn't speak very much English, but to translate and to communicate to his Brazilian audience. Sat there comfortable. It was explained and translated properly. So again, my point is technology will help. And of course, a leader that cares. You've got to look at these departments. You've got to look who has the cushy jobs and who are there serving the people. And you need to make the hard decisions. You know, once you bring somebody in under nepotism, it is almost difficult to get rid of them because they're an uncle, brother, a child, and they know they're not going to be fired. So that's what happened at the Clerk of Courts office.
And I'm not saying that you have to sit here and guarantee. One second, everybody. I've got a dog right here below me. It's a snore, everyone. Those who watch the show know that. But I am not sitting here and saying that you need to promise me, oh man, government's going to get smaller, because I don't think you need to look at who is there. But I would tell you that my concern when I look at the Orange County and Orlando governments is that we've seen the budgets grow and grow, but efficiency has not grown.
Absolutely.
And all I would be looking for, and I think a lot of people who are kind of middle right like me would be looking for, is that Rick would come in there and you would go, all right, do we need all 400 of these positions? Or is it like a zero-based budgeting here where everyone's got to say, what are you worth to keep you on in the position that you're doing? I just want I want government to step in and go, check, hold up, stop, pause. Let's take a look at, are 400 positions in this office necessary or not?
So I took 4 positions, Patrick, and I reallocated those positions as property appraiser. And I put a homestead exemption fraud department. I hired retired police officers because they have investigative skills. I got the DAVE system for investigation purposes. We put back $1 billion on the tax roll, Orange County tax roll, from that effect. It is return on investment, and that's where a businessman comes in and makes that decision. Is this functional? Is it sufficient enough to serve the purpose? And if it doesn't serve the purpose, then it's got to be changed.
I always think that sometimes in government that when people see that in like a position is terminated, it gets a negative, like a bad rap, like, oh man, this guy just stepped in and terminated somebody's position. I believe that sometimes that is a very positive thing, and that not for the person, I understand they lose their job, but government's job is to serve the people, right? And if there are positions that are not necessary, then unfortunately some people have to lose their job, not because of the person coming in, but because it became too bloated.
So not necessarily. I may disagree with that. You can repurpose people. I'll give you an example. I had a young lady, sold to the earth, made every effort to pass the exam to become an appraiser. She just couldn't pass the exam. She just could not take the test. I reallocated her, put her in customer service, trained her, and also trained her in the evenings to study for the appraisal exam. This lady studied for the appraisal exam, passed the appraisal exam, and became an appraiser. She's one of Orange County's top appraiser right now. Again, so you can repurpose people. You can essentially look at the positions that you're talking about and shrink those positions. You can be more efficient. I think your point to efficiency is a very valid point.
Okay, so you're talking about repurposing individuals, not necessarily coming in there and chopping heads. Let's put it that way.
Exactly.
Because listen, I'm all about that as long as we can. How to put it? My thing is just we're growing government so much. I think I saw in Orange County the budget went from 8.3 to 8.9 billion dollars. It just keeps going up, right? And it seems like to me the average person out there, Rick, is looking at this and going, "What am I getting for this more and more money going over to Orange County and going over to Orlando?" And they seem to just be frustrated with it. And one of the things I wanted, I'm happy about you being here is because I think that, at least from the sound of it, you can understand that there is a frustration with just this budget growing, with just the amount of people in government, and then the service and the what people are receiving in return just doesn't seem to be getting better within the county right now.
So, Patrick, I'll throw out a word, and I've thrown out this word all through this campaign and probably most of my life: care. The top has to care. If the top don't care, the bottom won't care, right? And a lot of times it's employees that are not trained properly, employees that don't know what to do, and they just react, okay? So you can't blame it on the employees or the department. You've got to analyze that situation as a CEO, and this is where experience matters. I did this at the property appraiser's office. I came in, they had X amount of commercial appraisers, X amount of residential appraisers, X amount of tangible personal property. I looked at the volume and readjust those appropriately and cause it to be the most efficient office in the state of Florida. 67 counties, we were the most efficient. So I say some of this analysis needs to be done to the Clerk of Courts once I become the Clerk of Court, and it will be done.
All right. I've got to ask you this question because my viewers would be upset if I didn't. Okay.
Yes.
We've talked about efficiency and we've talked about accuracy. We have to go back to your time as a property appraiser here in Orange County. We have done stories right now that Disney, in fact, is suing Orange County over what they consider to be property appraisals that were not fair to them as a company. All right. You were part of that. You were the head of I
was the property appraiser
for some of those appraisals.
Right.
In fact, the county has come out and even hinted at the fact that teachers in Orange County are perhaps not getting the raise they should because funds have had to be put to the side to pay back for these Disney lawsuits that are coming forward.
Right.
You've talked about efficiency. You've talked about accuracy, accountability, and transparency. I would like to know from you, how do you address this with Orange County?
So I'm going to give you an abbreviated answer because this is an entire show. The answer is quite simple. Disney will do what Disney have to do. Any entity will do what they have to do to reduce their assessment and to pay less taxes. That's number one. Number two is the property appraiser needs to assess the property fairly and equitably. Okay. If the first entity, which is this happens to be Disney or whatever entity there is, disagree with their assessment, they go before the Value Adjustment Board, which is a quasi-judicial system. And of course, a magistrate hears the case and they have the opportunity to lower or maintain the property appraiser's value. If Disney or the other entity in this case disagrees with that, they file lawsuits. Okay. Now, it is incumbent upon the property appraiser to be qualified to defend those assessments. Patrick, I'll tell you, when I was the property appraiser, I had just about 9 MAIs on staff. This is the gold standard in appraisal, okay? And those people have fleeted. They've gone with the new administration. The property appraiser of Orange County is you are more qualified to be the property appraiser of Orange County from an appraisal standpoint than the property appraiser of Orange County. She's never appraised a home in her life. When I took possession of the tax roll, if you will, the tax roll was $120 billion. When I left in 2012, when I left in 2020, it was $220 billion. There was a lot of entities that were misassessed, not assessed properly. But I'll tell you this, every lawsuit we were able to defend at the property appraiser's office to the tune of 99.8%. We defended at the property appraiser's office, and almost 100% of the value adjustment board, because firstly, we were fair with our assessment, and those that disagreed with it, we were able to defend it, and you use skill, talent, and ability to defend that assessment appropriately in the court system.
You stand by your appraisals?
Absolutely.
So I want everyone to, this is how I look at it, and I want you to correct me if I'm wrong on this one. Walt Disney gets an appraisal, they get a bill, right? They get a bill from Orange County.
Right.
It seems to me like what they did is they said, pay the bill.
Right.
They pay the bill, and then they go fight it on the back end.
Right.
Are you, from your explanation, it would appear to me that what you're kind of saying is they're sharks and they smell blood in the water. They look at it and they go, all right,
we have an opportunity.
We have an opportunity. Let's go take advantage of it.
Of course.
My fault that I have with Orange County is if you're going to go fight a battle and you tell the person you're fighting it against, I've already said we might lose and I put some money to the side in case we lose. You're not telling the courts, you're not telling that attorney that's going in there to fight that battle for you, if that's what you're not telling them, I think we've got a case.
You're not telling your staff.
You're not telling your staff that. You're not, I mean, in fairness, you've got somebody that is suing you and saying, you owe us money, and we're saying, no, we don't.
Right.
You got to, if you're going to go into that court battle, you've got to tell people, hey, we got your back. And when you put money to the side already and say, hey, listen, we're preparing to lose. Is what we are preparing to lose this court case right here. I don't think that's a very good look, in my opinion.
So the question is, from 2012 to 2020, when I was in office, $0 was set aside because I was eminently qualified and I had the staff that was technically and tactically proficient to defend the assessment. The property appraiser of the day is not able to do that. So to advocate that, what they're doing is setting aside money. I don't know why they're setting aside money. That is their prerogative. But again, they're setting aside money, I think, that they don't necessarily pay the teachers. Pay the teachers. Teachers needs to be paid. Pay the teachers and deal with it down the road. Don't lose the cases. That's the first thing. Assess properly. That's the quick fix. So again, this lands in the lap of the current property appraiser. And again, you need to be qualified. Listen, when this country was founded, one of the founding fathers said, "Lend me your talents and skills as we forge ahead to build this nation." What he was talking about is qualified people going into office. And that's what's happened here. We have an unqualified person that was put into office to the tune of $6.8 million against the guy you're looking at right here. That's what they spend in negative advertisement to get me out of office. And they put this person in office. Well, you sow what you reap.
Yeah. And I want to say this to everyone, because I think that anybody who's been in politics for any more than a day probably has something negative that has been said about them. And I'm going to say this.
Absolutely.
I've had people on this show, and individuals will come and they will criticize me after for not asking about a person's past. My goal is not to, like, there are things about your past I could ask you about right now.
Absolutely.
Cool. You've answered those things on previous shows. People can go look them up if that's what they choose to do. I make a choice because it's my name on the show of what I asked for. And I'm hoping that my audience understands. If somebody goes and looks at, hey, there have been some lawsuits against you.
Absolutely.
Okay, fine. There's been some lawsuits against me. If someone's looking for someone that's perfect, I'm surely not the individual.
Same here.
What I am looking for is to understand what a person is going to do or what their ideas are if they're going to come into office. That is where I'm looking at right now. So I want to be fair to my audience because, ask Rick about this, ask him about this. That stuff is already documented. All right. What I'm looking for is, what is this individual going to do when they come into office right now? And is it going to serve in the best interest of Orange County residents? All right. Which I want to talk about this right now. A few more questions that I have for you, as I know time is getting a little bit short right now. I want to talk a little bit about the Orange County budget in general.
Yes.
All right. You're a big part of that. Okay. I mean, 400 people part of this office right here.
Absolutely.
We've seen the mayoral debates where they're talking about the budget increasing again. I think it's almost $9 billion for Orange County right now.
Right.
I'm just interested for you. I mean, do you think that the government needs to get smaller? Do we need to make this thing bigger? Does it need to be more efficient? What are Rick Singh's? What are your thoughts on this thing, man?
I think it comes to sitting.
1 second.
Yeah.
I got it. We got some speed button.
I think what it is an analysis needs to be done, and it's probably done already. And I think the end result of that is efficiency. I think the end result of that is people making hard decisions. Listen, Patrick, people make hard decisions every day at their kitchen table. Are the kids going to go to private school? Are we going to buy the extra? Are we going to go on vacation? People make adjustments. People make hard decisions every day. But I've never found a government that don't that always need money. I've never found a government that don't always need money. You give them a budget of $10 million, next year they'll come back with $11 million and $12 million. Listen, the assessment went from 120 billion to 220 billion. The millage rate, which affects the taxes, never went down; it went up. Think about that for a moment, right?
Yep.
$100 billion, right? Now, to the credit of the people, while I was in office, 25 schools got built with that $100 billion. So that was effective. But I'm certain there was a lot of waste. There's a lot of fraud. There's a lot of things that go on that the public needs to really watch. So I commend you for bringing this up.
It's interesting. You mentioned 25 schools. When I look at Orange County and having to close 7 schools this year, it's sad, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna have a few more questions here about the race, of course, for Clerk of Court. But I want to ask you this because you're an expert when it comes to, I would say, well, let's say appraising property, surely.
Yes.
And then how much money comes in from those properties,
Right.
right? Is it fair to ask you about Amendment 3 and what your thoughts are? Because I look at Amendment 3, and you're somewhat of an expert, I would say, on this. And people have a lot of varying, on both sides. I see Democrats and Republicans concerned about property values and how much taxing they're going to have to pay. As just an expert in this, and when it comes to property, what are your thoughts when you look at this, brother?
So we have big counties and small counties in Orange County, and all counties are not alike. The big counties, I think, will if this goes through,
all counties in Florida, you mean?
Yes,
big counties
in Florida.
Okay,
yes,
got it.
In Florida. So of the 67 counties, there are big counties and small counties. The big counties will survive because they can offset the taxes that are not attributed to property values. The small counties will perish. Okay. Now think about this for a moment, Patrick. When I took office again, I told you the tax roll was $120 billion, and when I left, it was $220 billion. The homestead exemption never changed. It was still $25,000 and $50,000. Veterans exemption. Think about this for a moment. A widow or a veteran gets an exemption. It's $500 in valuation. You know what that translates into taxes? $30-something. I think that's embarrassing to tell someone that's lost a loved one, or to tell a first responder that you're only getting $20-something. You couldn't even buy a decent cup of a couple of cups of Starbucks at coffee at Starbucks. So again, I think there is definitely room for the exemptions to be handled. If the governor is right about and again, this is only for homestead exempted property, so we got to understand that. Is it going to put a dent in the tax roll? Yes.
Sure.
Our government's going to have to adjust their belts and make adjustment. Yes. Can it be done? Yes.
Can be. I think it can be done.
Yeah.
But I also believe that any politician, it's never going to affect it's not going to affect police. It's not going to affect fire. They say this, and I look at it and I go, I don't think that's genuine.
Yeah.
Because that's a disingenuous thought, because if there's less of a pie to go around, there's less.
Absolutely.
All right. Now, you may, say this part of the pie goes over here, but that doesn't mean they may not need more of it at some point. And there's just simply less there to go around. It's going to affect everyone.
I think it is. I think it is. If it doesn't affect them directly, in a roundabout way, it will affect them. And again, we are fortunate in Orange County that we have tourism. We have a large commercial base of properties, so we can adjust that and of course make the adjustment. But again, everyone is going to feel this. Everyone is going to feel this.
That's absolutely right. I have a couple of questions left for you. Anthony, you've been monitoring questions in the audience. Is that right? You got anything for me there that we could be good? Because I've got some over here, but some of them, some people have their opinions about me, and that doesn't matter to Rick. So you got anything over there for Rick?
Nothing really, just more of just comments about the whole general thing.
It's a fair question, Julio. I'll ask that, man. I'll ask it. Are you at all looking at the commissioner races that are going on right now? Do you have any opinions about the commissioner races? And I think even a better question for you, what do you consider the relationship of the clerk of court to be with some of these city leaders? I think that might be even a better way to look at it.
Yeah, I as property appraiser and as clerk of court, I will interact with a lot of these leaders. Our paths don't really cross until it comes to budgeting, but I plan to develop a relationship where we have an open door, where they can come to me if I need something, I can go to them if I need something. So having that symbiotic relationship is so important. As far as the clerk, as far as the commission races go, they're very interesting, especially with the new commission. I think there's 7 or 8. I was at a debate the other night, and they all got up, and one of the ladies jokingly said, "I'm number 9 on the ballot," or whatever that number was. So I find that kind of humorous. But I listen. At the end of the day, I commend anyone that run for office. Republican, Democrat, Independent. Once you've signed your name and decide to run for office, I commend everybody that's run for office, and I thank them for running for office.
I love that. Anything over there? I'm going to go my next one over here. Then if not,
someone just wants to know why you're no longer the property appraiser for Orange County.
oh, so you
$6.8 million. Why?
explain it to us.
So again, adding $100 billion to the tax roll, you're going to ruffle feathers. Okay. So in the first race for re-election, there was an entity who was dark money. And dark money is essentially, you don't know where this money is coming from. They spent $1.6 billion against me in a general election, and I won by 16 points. Okay. Why did they spend this money? They didn't want to pay taxes. So in a roundabout way to get rid of the property appraiser, we handpick a candidate, which they did. The candidate didn't do anything as far as campaigning, but they just launched negative media, negative, they spent $6.8 million. That's more than Trump and Hillary spent in the general election in Orange County in 2020. So they spent this money, negative ads. COVID was at the time, I'm a fighter. I would have fought tooth and nail, but of course I was handicapped with COVID. You can't go to the churches, you can't go out and meet people. If you do, you're in a mask, they don't recognize you. So essentially I lost the election in a primary, and it was attributed to the entities that hand selected a candidate in the current property appraiser, and then put her in the office, and of course spent negative press, negative advertisement to get me out. So that's why I'm not the property appraiser of Orange County.
If you were to be elected, another question over here, would you keep Roberta Walton Johnson as a general counsel?
I would have her apply properly for the position, and I would compete. I would have her compete for the position with other people that's competing for the position. I would not have nepotism or hire her because of her past performance at the office. As a CEO, I would give her a fair opportunity to apply for the position. It is an at-will position, and I would, of course, offer the position to any attorney if it's needed. I would even evaluate if that position is needed, because again, the clerk of court has outside counsel. So the question I bid, and it may be a valid question until I get there, but the question that begs is that position even needed? Because that position was created by Tiffany Moore Russell for her to fix the Lydia Gardner Center. That Lydia Gardner Center is fixed and it's done. So I don't know if that position is needed. You don't have to be an attorney to be the clerk of court. There is Lydia Gardner, there is Ms. Chapin, there is Fran Pignoni, I believe, was the clerk of court. These are all people that were not attorneys. The Seminole County clerk of court is not an attorney. The Hillsborough County clerk of court is not an attorney. So Ms. Walton is going around saying that she's the only attorney in this race. Well, this is a CEO position. You want to be an attorney and run for race? Go run against Monique Worrell. She's the state attorney, by the way.
I've got my thoughts on Monique Worrell's, what she's done for the office. All right. I've got a few more questions, and I want to be fair to my audience. Okay. We kind of dove into this, but my audience here is asking, saying, hey, Patrick, you need to be direct with your questioning. And so I could put it up there on the screen, but I want to actually be fair to what my audience is asking. Okay?
Absolutely.
They said that there have been some counts of misconduct by FDLE against you, and that that when your office was audited. What do you say to somebody who may think, hey, listen, you know what? There are some discrepancies in maybe how work has been done at the current office for the clerk of court, but what about how you ran your office? Can you answer that question directly?
So that's a fair question,
Okay.
and I attribute anything that I've done publicly to be asked, and I will answer. So there was 2 disgruntled employee who wrote just a laundry list of issues at this office. I brought in Belvin Perry, who was the chief judge, or just retired chief judge, to investigate this. It was really an opportunity for them to say, okay, this guy's going to cave and he's going to write me a check. I'm a fighter, like I told you. I said, nope, if I did something wrong, prove it to me. And I hired Belvin Perry. Judge Perry came in and interviewed everybody. La-di-da-di, everybody, including myself, we all went under oath. The two individuals making the accusation refused to go under oath. Okay. So Judge Perry came back and said, this is a nothing burger. The people that essentially are making the accusation are the ones actually at fault. That was taken to FDLE probably about 20 times by these people. Finally, FDLE investigated and found misconduct, what they perceived to be misconduct in some areas. That was taken to the state attorney. The state attorney looked at this for almost 4 months, Patrick, something that could have been resolved in 4 weeks. But here's the caveat. They sent the finding after 4 months, 3 weeks after absentee ballot went out. Okay, so that this is America. The last time I checked, everybody's innocent until proven guilty, including elected officials. Okay,
Yes.
so if there was misconduct, it was addressed by FDLE. It was addressed by Orange County. It was addressed. I went through 8 audits in Orange County. All of them 0 findings. So I think that speaks for itself. As a matter of fact, to quote the comptroller of the day, the property appraiser's expenditure of public funds is best practice for public funds, quote unquote, Martha Haney.
Okay. I want to make sure I got that question because I want to be fair to the people
Absolutely.
that come on here and do
Patrick,
comments.
I'm an
So,
open
Tim,
book. Any question you got, bring it on.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. You got anything on your end over there? Hold on one second. Good. I'm just looking through all the questions here. We've asked some of these. Somebody lived in the same building as you a long time ago.
Say hello.
Yeah, I know that's not something. Okay, here we go. Same question. Good. Okay, so we answered these questions right here. So yeah, and I think that what you're addressing right here is that there was allegations previously within the position of property appraiser that those people would not go under oath who made those allegations. I
Yes.
think one of the biggest things. The other thing is that there's clarification here that somebody's asking for. You did not retire from that position. You simply were in an election and were not reelected at that time. Is that correct?
Yes. So each constitutional position is a 4-year term.
Yep.
You run for re-election, which is essentially you voted in by the people. So my second term, I did not win my election again. I told you I lost the election.
That's fine, but you did get reelected the first time.
Yeah, absolutely.
You did.
Absolutely.
And I mean, 2.5 rating right now.
Yes.
Something's changed.
Yes. Yes.
With the clerk of, I'm sorry, not with your position, but with the clerk of court. I'm never going to forget that.
Yeah.
I mean,
2.5.
2.5. That's unbelievable, right there.
Shameful.
It really is. Any more questions on your end? Because I've got my final one right here, and then I'm going to open the floor to you, okay, Rick? Because I want to make sure I talk to you about one thing. Good. Can you bring up the piece of paper? Because I want. This is where, for me, put aside all your Orange County, right? You know about the TDT.
I do. It's a hot
topic
subject.
right now.
Yeah.
TDT is a hot topic. All right. And in the course of our investigation, we've been looking at how the TDT money is spent.
Yes.
All right. And I want to just be open with you about that. $100 million of that goes to a private nonprofit called Visit Orlando.
Yes.
I've been vocal against how I think there's accountability. All right.
Okay.
I am not saying anything is wrong. I'm not saying anything is right. I'm talking about optics only on this one, Rick. There has been a letter. We're going to put it up on the screen that right now Visit Orlando is required to do a yearly public meeting.
Okay.
Okay. And we received this information on Friday. It's dated down there in the bottom right and everything. We received the last 5 years, in fact, of this meeting being posted. Now, I was very interested to see the very top of this one because I think it speaks to some of the problems that people in Orange County have with government. The very top of this says the location of this public meeting was Isleworth Country Club. I want to make sure. Golf Club. Okay. Isleworth Golf Club.
Same thing.
Okay. Now, I am not a wealthy man, but I have driven past Isleworth, and I've actually been able to go in there a couple of times.
Yes.
It's Fort Knox trying to get into Isleworth. This is where, like, the Tiger Woods and Bubba Watson and people like that have, and what is it, Bubba Watson, the golfer? Yeah, have lived. Very difficult to get in there. You talk about transparency, you talk about accuracy and efficiency. When I see something like that, man, I think that is not the type of thing that people look at and go, a public meeting in the Isleworth Golf Club? Something seems like it's not exactly on the surface, just the way you look at it, you go, You mean to tell me 200 Orange County residents were showing up and getting in that day? I've been there. I know that they check ID. I mean, it's like literally, it's like trying to get into a fort around there.
Exclusive club.
It's
Yes.
it's very exclusive.
Yes.
Just on the surface, exclusivity. I mean, like this is the kind of stuff people look at and go, "How is our money being spent?"
Yes.
Can you understand at least where I'm coming from on that one?
Absolutely. I think what you're talking about is access and optics,
Okay.
right?
Okay, good.
Can people get access to their government or to get a review of what's happening with their government dollars? And that's so important.
Yeah.
You know, if I was advising, and again, in my own humble capacity, I would have this meeting at 5 or 10 places around the county.
Yeah.
Right. I would have it in every neighborhood. I would select, like we're selecting polling stations right now. I would find those neighborhoods that people had interest in, and I would have that meeting there and make it accessible. You know, Patrick, when I was property appraiser, I did over 1,000 outreach events in 2 years. Think about that. Do the math. 1,000 outreach events. And I firmly believe that you're more efficient when you communicate with the public. I firmly believe that to serve a people, you must know a people, and to know a people, you must communicate with them.
Fair enough. My final question that I have for you before I turn the floor over to you, all right, is this. I want people of Orange County to understand the biggest difference between what you will do in the office of Clerk of Court and what Roberta Walton Johnson will do. Can you explain to us a very clear difference that will make an actual impact on their life?
Absolutely. So the first thing is I have made an impact in their life as their property appraiser. I've taken a large office, very much like the Clerk of Court today, mundane office that just operated efficiently periodically, and I transformed that office into a world-class organization in terms of customer service, in terms of technology, in terms of efficiency, in terms of accurate assessment, in terms of morale by the employees, which are so important, fostering and serving our different levels of customer service. Understand, the Clerk of Court does not only serve the public. The Clerk of Court, in my opinion, have three customers. The public, they also have local government, because local government also interact. They have the judicial system. And of course, they have the third, which is the institutional users of this office. The employees also are a customer. So you have to essentially tailor your messaging and your service in accordance. So again, I will essentially, focus on customer service. I will focus on technology. And I have dealt with a large office before. You asked the comparison between Mrs. Walton. Mrs. Walton's level of expertise with regards to management is, again, she's managing one person. That is Roberta Walton. Her function as an attorney is questionable. Like I said, she has tried one case. It was her case, and she filed a paper wrong. Think about that for a moment. We may laugh at that, but think about if that's your son or daughter paperwork that's getting filed wrong, and they end up with a ticket or end up with a police officer stopping them, and it's not showing that ticket is paid. They go to jail. If it's your marriage, or if it's you're married, you're divorced, what have you. And again, managing money. $40 billion is nothing to sneeze at. And if someone had to file bankruptcy, again, we all file. We all have deficiencies, but this is a position of responsibility. And if you can't manage your own personal money, Patrick, how are you going to manage $40 million? Think about it. I want to repeat this: foreclosures, bankruptcies, 35, 32, if check fraud, that does not equal Clerk of Court. There's an oxymoron. Think about that for a moment. Say it out loud. Say it out loud if you want to vote for Roberta Walton. Bankruptcy, foreclosures, 32 bank crimes, and you're going to manage $40 million and run an office of this importance in our county? I don't know.
Okay. I want to push you on this one a little bit, though, because I understand the qualification differences. But is there something about the direction of the office itself that you feel is very different? Like, hey, I'm day one, I'm doing this way, or day one might be, but first 90 days, whatever it might be, I'm taking the office this way. Miss Johnson is taking the office this way. Is there a clear difference in your mind about which direction you're taking the office? Something clearly?
Absolutely. So I've taken the time to analyze those 400 Google reviews. And the lion's share of that is the call center. The call center is not functioning. You call and you're waiting 4 hours. You call and people don't know That's the first thing I'm looking at. The second thing I'm looking at is customer service. You walk up to that counter, you are greeted with a smile, and somebody is solving your problem. If they can't solve your problem, they need to go to a supervisor, and that supervisor needs to be educated. So both of those people need to be retrained. Okay. So customer service. Second thing is of course, Patrick, technology. We will build, and I will repeat this, we will build the best website for Clerk of Courts in the state of Florida. All right. And I've done it before as property appraiser, and I will do it again.
What did I miss about you? What is it that you came, like, if you wanted to get a message out right now, where right now early voting has started, what message would you have currently right now for individuals who are in Orange County?
I come from a humble beginning, Patrick. I was born in a place with no running water, no electricity. I got out of school when I was 8 years old, had to leave school to care for my father who had a stroke. He died when I was 10. My mother moved us to New York City. She worked 3 jobs as a maid. In working 3 jobs as a maid, I had a first class, a front row seat to watching, a domestic goddess, man. She orchestrated and balanced these roles like Beethoven conducted music. And I say that to say she took the time out with all this enormous responsibility to give back and give back to community. And this is what I observed, and this is what I inherited from my mother's teaching. And this is why I served as a soldier. And working as, joining the military, I served as a soldier. I worked on the Apache and Cobra weapon system. And you got to get it right. There's no room for error, right? I learned leadership. I learned how to work as a team member. Learned so much from the military. And then I went into private practice and developed a business and create jobs. And you're a business owner, understand all the intricacies that goes to, there is a mass difference between signing the front of a check and the back of a check, as I've told you earlier. So I say that. So when one brings this public sector, private sector, military experience, life experiences to a job like the clerk of court, you create, and you apply it. You have to apply it. You apply it. You create a lot of change, and you affect. Listen, Patrick, at the end of the day, with all humility, I say this, and I say this with all respect. I don't need this job. I'm running for this job to serve the people of Orange County. Okay? I'm running for this job to serve the people of Orange County, and that's my only motivation here. I don't need it for a paycheck. I don't need it for a fame. I go into a restaurant, probably 3 out of 4 people will know who I am because I was their property appraiser. So I don't need it for fame. I don't need the money. I'm doing this to serve the people of Orange County, and that's my only reason here.
Very good. I think I've got down everything that I missed here. Is there anything else you wanted to present to us here today, or do we cover everything that we're talking about? Because I always want to give the last bit to you as a guest.
Yeah.
I never want to sign off and go, hey man, Pat, you never touched on this right here. If there's something that I've missed, you let me know.
Yeah. Elections is a job interview, Patrick, and you have to look at the best qualified person to handle this position. I asked someone, I said, hey, you've got a wallet full of money and you got to jump to save somebody and you got to give somebody to hold this money. Who are you going to give it to? A person that has had, 2 felonies in the past, bankruptcy, for whatever that is, or someone that's trusted, and it was a hands down decision. And this is the decision the voters have to make. You have 2 clear choices: an experienced person that's managed a public office, that's run it with world-class, results, accuracy and assessment, ranked number 1 in the state, and have accolades for this office and has really taken this to the next level, and someone who don't have the experience. A manager, an attorney in a clerk of court office is a 5th tier employees. There is chief of staff, chief operating officers, different departments that are above that, closer to the clerk of court. So that experience is not there. Experience matters. Experience in this office is like holding a lion by the tail, Patrick. You got to know you got to know what to do when that lion turns around. I'll give you an example in closing. COVID came about. And that was an experience that nobody thought about. Here is something we're going to have to change the way we do things. I was prepared. In 1.5 days, we were operating with Zoom from our houses, right? I trained my staff in preparation for these things. Most city government, including the clerk of court, took them a month to go mobile. My office was a day and a half. So I leave the voters with that. Just clear decision. I humbly ask for your vote. I come from a humble beginning. I come with a vast amount of experience, and I'm looking to bring this experience to the office of clerk of court to serve you.
His name is Rick Singh, everybody. He's running to be the Orange County's clerk of court. You may know him. I would agree with you. Probably 3 out of 4 people, when you do walk into a local restaurant, recognize the face. Of course, he is running against Roberta Walton Johnson. Early voting is happening right now, all the way through August the 18th. Everybody get out there and vote. And you will be on the ballot, man.
Yes, sir.
Good luck to you. And if you do win, or if you don't win, I hope you will come back here and be a guest here on the show, man, because it's a pleasure being able, first time me and you have been able to sit down here and have ourselves a conversation.
Absolutely. It was a joy to be here. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. And keep doing what you're doing, man. Whatever you do with this show,
We're doing it.
whatever plans you have in the future, I wish you all the best. And the community needs a voice like yours. I want to tell you that before leaving. So keep doing what you're doing.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much. We'll see you all tomorrow on the Patrick Carr Show. Have a great rest of your Monday.